Happy New Year's! Welcome to my first video of 2026. And what better way to start the year than with the end of an era? Stranger Things is finally over. It's been around for more than half of my life, and it's been this huge phenomenon. Yet I think almost every person is at least aware the show exists. And now it's over. But was it a satisfying conclusion, or was it a disappointing one? Both. But before we get into that, what's happening? Well, Stranger Things season 5 picks up right after 4, or actually 1 year after 4. But so the whole Hawkins gang are trying to find Vecna and kill him, and they do these things called crawl, where they sneak through the portal, sneak into a military base to get to the Upside Down, and they look for Vecna. And after a few attempts, but it doesn't. After a few tries, the crawls go wrong, and then it turns out it was a distraction, and Holly, the sister of Mike and Nancy, gets kidnapped. And after that, and the whole season trying to find Holly, and kill Vecna. Yeah, pretty simple premise. But for some reason, Netflix has split it into 3 different sections. Yeah, Netflix, being their greedy old self, split the season into 3 different parts. They played half the season, half another season, and then the very last episode, you have to wait another extra 5 days. And after watching the season, this whole splitting things apart thing did not work out. Maybe the finale would have been okay, but the rest of it is like you did not need to split the season to 2 different halves. But eventually, I think the first part, Volume 1, was pretty good. There were some problems with it. For example, I think they bring back a character problem, the love triangle from season 1, which didn't really need to be brought up, and it was probably the most boring part of the show. A lot of the characters, like usual, couldn't do much because there's so many characters, and the Duffers refuse to kill anybody. Even the main character, Mike's parents, can't die for some reason. Yeah, they just get slashed, but they're fine. Even though killing them would have upped the stakes significantly, and the Duffer Brothers were like, nobody's safe this season. Everybody's safe this season. And I mean, outside like one character who's only appeared for 1 episode, the most hated episode of the show, dies, and everybody else goes on fine and lives on. Well, almost everybody. Well, depending on what you think, there's a character fate that's ambiguous. We'll get to that. Yeah, Volume 1. But again, I like the scenarios. The characters that do work are very interesting. And again, the last episode, especially this one-take action sequence, which was really, really awesome. I think honestly, it ended off in a pretty interesting way that made me hooked for the next half. Volume 2, which unfortunately, not so good. Yeah, Volume 2 was pretty forgettable. I thought most characters had barely did anything in Volume 1. People did very little in Volume 2. Like, there's only 4 characters are relevant in that entire section. Because for most of it, it's just taking time for Holly's whole subplot where she's trapped in Henry's mind. She's a fine character, but does she need all this time? Because it's taking away from the characters that we do know. And it's some of them feel so shoehorned into the plot. And so the Volume 2 wasn't so good. And it was probably my least favorite part of Stranger Things season, or part of Stranger Things I think I've seen. Didn't quite hate it as much as some people do, but it was significantly flawed. And then we came to the finale, the very last episode. How was it? Well, some things work, others don't. The main problem with the finale is the final battle. It is so underwhelming. The way they defeat Vecna and the Mind Flayer, well, that's kind of a spoiler, but I think they're going to get defeated. Yeah, the way it happens, though, is so easy, so quick. It's I think this is probably the easiest fight these characters had. Season 4 and 3, those were much more, they struggled so much more during those finales to overcome their enemies. Here, not so much. It is they just get dispatched of so easily. I'm thinking to myself, you've been building up to this final confrontation, and you spend like how long was the final battle? 10 minutes at the most. And that's if you're being very generous. 10 minutes. Yeah, so that was extremely frustrating. And it's like I swear, I thought to myself, that's it? No, that can't be it. I thought there was something else gonna happen. I really did. I was waiting, and eventually at a certain point, I realized, oh my god, that was it. That was the final confrontation. So yeah, that was extremely disappointing. But after that, after the whole final confrontation, there's an epilogue which does go on for too long. It's a bit of like Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, where there's so much characters and so much plot threads that need to be wrapped up. It kind of gets a little tiring. Like it's like okay, but again, the way everything wraps up is done in a very satisfying manner. I think I'm satisfied with almost every single character, how they end up. Well, almost. See, there's a character. See, there actually may be a death. I say maybe because it leaves the character's fate ambiguous whether they died or lived. And honestly, I don't think it really worked that well. I feel like it would have been much better if they just picked one. It feels like they picked one solution. It feels like the Duffer Brothers just copped out, saying instead of like they want to kill off a character to, like, please the people, but they also don't want to kill off a character because they like the character so much. So they decided, let's do this middle of the road bullshit. No, pick one. Just pick one, you cowards. But despite all that, I am sad. I am okay with how it ended. Again, it could have been better, and I mean a lot better. But it stuck the landing. Very clumsily, but it did so. And honestly, I think that's good enough for me at this point. Maybe it's I've been so frustrated by so many shows I like being ended in such unsatisfying manners. Like this year alone with Squid Game, and then there's Umbrella Academy, which is those two are so much worse. And don't even get me started, Troll Hunters. Like that is maybe the worst end TV show. Not the best TV show, not the biggest fall off in quality, but the worst ending. So yeah, I'm gonna give that distinction to that show. But despite all that, I am very much happy with how certain things ended. The characters all got good conclusions, and you know what? That's a rarity in these day and ages. So many stories end their endings off in ways that make no sense, or just commit blatant character assassination, where they do things you wouldn't expect them to do, or give them like results that feel weirdly misplaced in the story. I would have liked something a little more risque, like Lost's ending. I actually really love Lost's ending. I don't know what people are tripping about, but I kind of wish it ended some way like that, where like it had the sentimentality and tied everything together, but also took some risks. But this show doesn't. And there's so many other things I can complain about and nitpick. But I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna quit whilst I'm ahead. I'm gonna stop whilst I have the chance, and I'm gonna just take it for what it is. And also, I can't spoil the show. Yeah, it's very hard to talk about the season not spoiling because a lot of the main issues do come from spoilers. But to cap it all off, I'm giving this final season of Stranger Things a 7/10, and Stranger Things as a whole is getting an 8.